Good evening, friends, and welcome to another late night edition of Crime Time with DutyRon and Ed Wallace. We are retired New York City detectives and a 9/11 World Trade Center first responders. If you like all things true crime related from the police detective's perspective, hit that subscribe button, hit that notification bell so you'll get all things DutyRon and my partner in crime, Ed Wallace, when we go live or upload another video. Hey, tonight we're going to talk about why hasn't Jennifer Soto been charged yet. We got a polygraph expert, our good friend Timmy Acosta, the man who's really responsible for Ed Wallace being here. He introduced me to him. He's going to join us in a few minutes. But Ed, we are so happy that you're back on U.S. soil, and we are grateful that you're here with us tonight. How are you doing, and where the hell have you been?
I'm doing good. I'm glad to be home. It was a long month. I was in Burkina Faso, and that's probably going to be it was my third trip there, but probably my last. It was a horrific event that occurred. It got very little media back here. Okay. But you would think, it would made it international news, given that there was a terrorist attack and 200 people lost their lives in one attack in a village in Burkina Faso, about 50 miles north of the capital.
Right. But we're happy that you're safe and you're home. And, I know you did what you had to do to keep yourself safe. But the bottom line is everybody missed you, Ed. We all love you and we miss you, and we're glad that you're safe.
I know the internet was terrible, wasn't it? I tried.
Yeah, you tried one time and then that was it. It was a wrap, because when we were trying to communicate with each other, we would keep getting disconnected. But, Ed, we've covered this Jennifer Soto, Madeline Soto, Stephan Stearns, front to back. And there's so much information that's coming out, some new information, new crime scene photos, new recordings of interviews. And the main question that everyone's getting caught up on is, why the hell is Jennifer Soto not hogtied and dragged in and locked up? And the conversation is open to everybody here in the chat. What would she be locked up for? We certainly know that we don't have access to the case file. We don't have access to all of the stuff. What we see is what they're releasing before the trial starts, but we don't have complete access to the case file. But if she was involved in anything to do with the murder of Madeline Soto, her daughter, I would think that by now she would be brought in on that. But what about her negligence in safeguarding her child? Ed, before we bring on Timmy, can you talk just a little bit about that?
You're preaching to the choir on this one. I believe she has committed several felonies involving the welfare of her child. Okay. Child abuse, endangering the welfare of a minor. There's numerous charges I believe she can be brought up on. Did she know about the homicide? Probably not. Okay, but I believe she knew about all the other things that were going on in that house, and that made her an unfit mother. Then that child services should have been made aware of what was going on in this household, and this poor child didn't need to die, and she could have been removed from this household and brought to a loving family, and then we wouldn't have this tragedy.
Yeah, I agree, Ed. There's so many moving parts to this case, and when you look at Jennifer Soto and how she didn't attend her daughters, that was one of the red flags that jumped right out at me. And people were like quick to say, well, it's not easy to get off from your job. And now we come to find out it's like a part-time job that she was still training in. And it wasn't anything that like she couldn't have advanced planned and said, hey, my daughter is turning 13. She's a teenager. I want to be there for the official party. Her birthday was on Thursday. I want to be there for the official party. But she didn't do that. And she says in her interviews, I wasn't there, like nonchalant. I don't know any good loving mother that would be like, hey, you know what? I'm going to bounce on this. And, as a matter of fact, the next morning after she had her birthday party on Sunday, going into Monday, I'm going to let Stephan take her for a special McDonald's breakfast, but I'll sleep in for that. Like, those are so many red flags and so many things. But, so we asked our good friend Timmy Acosta to review both interviews early on, the one she gave to WFTV and then the one that she gave to the Fox affiliate. And I asked them to just look over those interviews. And he is a polygraph expert. We're going to bring him on now. Served in the NYPD. Matter of fact, he worked with your wife. Correct me if I'm wrong, right?
Yes, he did.
Yeah. So he served many years in the NYPD, first grade retired detective. He's part of the first grader club. Timmy Acosta, welcome in, my brother from another mother. How you doing?
Fantastic. Thanks for having me, guys. It's great to see you. Ed, I'm glad you're back in the U.S.
Thanks, Tim. Great to see you.
And again, Tim doesn't like this, but I did it already without him here. I'm going to do it again because of Timmy. He was watching me as I was solo and said, you know what? I got a good guy for you. I got a good guy for you. And I was like, what? He goes, Ed Wallace. He's a home run. And the rest is history. So thank you, Tim. And everybody in the chat, I'm sure, is very thankful for you introducing us to Ed. Really quick, I asked you today to go over these two interviews. And, this case, Madeline Soto just turned 13 years old. We now know that Stephan Stearns was sexually assaulting and sexually abusing her for almost 7+ years. This is going back into her single-digit years as a child. It's a horrific case. I want you to just tell the audience a little bit about your experiences and what you do currently as it pertains to polygraphs and what type of people you're doing the polys on.
So I've conducted over the past probably close to 10 years, I've conducted at least 1,500 one-on-one personal interviews of convicted pedophiles, child molesters, people who have been convicted of crimes related to pedophilia or some kind of child abuse. The most recent being within the last few days. If you asked me, Tim, and if you went down a list of every profession you could possibly think of, I'm going to tell you I've interviewed one of those persons as somebody who's convicted of a sex offense against a child, whether it's police officer, camp counselor, school teacher, principal, probation officer, priest, reverend, pastor, you name it, I've interviewed them. A lot of times getting confessions out of them and more information that law enforcement didn't have. It's a very, very, heartbreaking field that I'm in. Sometimes I interview these guys and I'm just like, I get a little bit of, emotion because the things that I hear are so disturbing. And it's just like normal to a lot of these guys. It's just normal. When I look at, this case, Stephan Stearns was, a guy that, he fit in the community. I haven't heard anything about anybody else making complaints against him yet, although that may still come out. Whether or not he's molested any other children, we don't know. Again, that's stuff that may come out. Yeah. I don't know, with the photos that they've recovered from his phone, there's apparently a lot of photos. Who knows? Who knows how many more victims he may have? This poor girl was subjected to having to sleep with this guy and whatever took place. And when I say sleep in the same bed, we know that the mother admitted that she sent this child to go sleep in the same bed with this guy.
Yeah.
It's just terrible. It's terrible.
Yeah, he had over 400 photos and multiple videos of him depicting him with Madeline Soto, with our victim here. So there's a overwhelming mountain of evidence as it pertains to Stephan Stearns. And like a lot of people say, well, maybe they're trying to get Jennifer to help be a witness for the prosecution. And when we talked about this the last time we got together, and Ed, you mentioned this many times, the mountain of evidence against them. And we see these crime scene photos. You and I and Tim reviewed them before we went live. There's a ton of crime scene photos that they released in the FOIA request. Plunder has them on her channel. Many other people have posted them. We're going to do a dedicated show on those crime scene photos. And Ed, I'm sure you have a lot to say about them just based on what you preliminarily saw here. they have a ton of evidence against Stephan Stearns, but what about Jennifer? That's what this live interactive live stream is about. But Ed, can you just talk a little bit about some of the stuff that we just saw that you were looking at inside Stephan Stearns' car, the blood and so forth?
Yeah, so there was all kinds of blood stains in there, some of which could be considered spatter. Usually spatter is caused by some kind of impact on a bleeding wound. And there were also what we call contact transfers. There was some bedding in there. It looks like there was a bedspread or a bed cover. I don't know where that came from, if that was part of the household or did it come from a hotel that was stayed at. And there was in these beddings, there were what appeared to be possible seminal and vaginal fluids on the bedding. It's all sickening. And this, inside and out, inside the Lincoln Town Car and on the floor mats, the dashboard, and like as you see here. So.
Yeah, I mean, we looked at these quickly, and this is part of the tire that was ripped off, and then they had.
Well, you could see that he drove on that tire in order for it to get into that state. He drove on a flat tire.
Right. Yeah. So much for us to look at, so much for us to talk about. I showed you the white Nissan. There was, it looked like they did a full print job on the white Nissan. I'm going to go back to that.
They dusted for latent fingerprints on the outside of the white Nissan with black fingerprint powder.
Yeah, and this is courtesy, again, of Plunder True Crime. Paula is a friend of the channel. I talked to her about this. I actually invited her to come on with us tonight to give her a little, have her to come on and talk with the people and see if she wanted to join us, but she wasn't she wasn't available tonight to come and join. So she kind of was not able to come on with us, but I wanted to get to the point where it shows the outside of the car here, because a lot of people are getting caught up. Our friend Sleuthy asked me, she sent me a message on social media. She's like, could you have Ed review? Let me just get what she said quickly, because I want to cover multiple things before we get into the into Jennifer, talking about Jennifer Soto and her body language and from a polygraph standpoint. All right, so these are the things that she sent me. So what she was saying is that, hey, can you please ask Ed at some point if this looks like someone wiped down the fingerprints, black powder on Jen's car and no fingerprints. So these are kind of some of the screenshots that she sent me. I don't know if she's in the chat, but
yeah. So there's definitely there's a difference between the definition of wipe and swipe. Okay, so wipe is where you have a contaminant on a surface, and then you're going to wipe that away, so to speak. Swipe is you have a contaminant on your hand or something like that, and then you wipe it onto a surface that doesn't have it. So again, if in this case this looks like especially the feathering there on the front edge of the rear door. Okay, so this looks like what we would call a swipe. Okay, and other portions look like, yes, they definitely were touched. And I can't see a fabric pattern. If I saw a fabric pattern, then I would say, okay, somebody tried to wipe something down with a cloth or something of that effect. And then if like there was originally material here, and then somebody wiped through that material and left images as we see, but all of this appears to be sebaceous gland material as opposed to blood. This, because you wouldn't put latent fingerprint powder on blood samples. Okay,
right.
So there was some kind of interaction occurred at this door. Don't know if there was a fight or a struggle, but it could be indications of that. Okay, of a struggle occurring at this door, and you can see all of the directionality of, moving from the front of the vehicle towards the back of the vehicle and downward.
Yeah, and I look at this drip that goes down here, and like you said, these are the, this is leading towards the back quarter panel. This is the
Is this a
rear.
black and white photo?
No, this is not a black and white photo.
Can we, oh, yeah, wait, go back. Yeah. Okay.
Hold on.
Yeah, go back to the other one.
Let me go. Hold on to this. Hold on.
Stop breathing down my neck.
Oh, I knew that was coming.
Yeah. I haven't used that in a long time.
Yeah. Okay, so all those little markers there are where they found evidence, and it appears it was blood.
Yeah. So this is the trunk of her car, and you see crime scene tape, or I mean, a marker tape there. What do we got here, Ed?
That was a seal. That was a seal on the trunk.
But what was that in the back corner of the thing? Was that plastic tarp? It looked like
some kind of plastic.
So this is the white Nissan. This is her car, and this is the car he allegedly took at 4 o'clock or 3:30 in the morning, Monday going into Tuesday, and drove back towards the location where her remains were recovered. I'm hoping that it gets.
This is where it was surmised that he went back to do a better job covering up the victim.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know why I lost the position of the. I've got to assume that it's coming here soon. There it is. Okay.
Okay. You see. All right. Yeah. Okay. So yeah, it's definitely not blood. And it's probably some kind of sebaceous gland material, sweat.
I mean, you can see some of it back here.
Uh-huh. And it's definitely liquid. You see it's running, of course, of gravity downward from some large areas there.
Interesting.
I hope they swabbed it and sent it for analysis to see, what the chemical makeup of it was.
Right. But here's another thing. When the three of us looked at this, and we looked at the blood in the front passenger seat of the Lincoln MKZ, his car, that made us, all three of us, go, they're alluding to that he strangled her to death, right? And people in the chat are still saying, oh, well, how did she die? How did she die? Now we're seeing blood in the passenger front mat, the floor mat in Stephan's vehicle as you go forward here.
Floor mat, the dashboard. Yeah.
So, and shout out to Plunder. Obviously, I'm going to link her in the description. But these are some of the, this looks like some type of bedding or something from who knows where.
Hotel or the house. Who knows?
Hotel, house. But when we were looking at the front of this vehicle, and again, this was not the direction that I was going to go during this live stream, we did see blood in the front, and here's the markers.
Yeah, so evidence seal for the trunk to keep it, make sure nobody tampered with what was in the trunk. See, the doors are sealed as well. Yep. So, when they towed the vehicle from then, they put these seals on to, safeguard the integrity of the interior of the vehicle, and they would know if somebody tampered with it by those seals being broken.
Yeah. So they're going to test the blood. Obviously, they're going to test it to make sure it's human. Some people saying his parents used that car as a pet ambulance. I mean, we don't have any confirmation of this, but the science is what's going to confirm it. When they do the swabbing and they cut that piece of the carpet out and they send it to the lab, they're going to be able to ascertain, whether it's human, whether it was,
Well, at that point, I would take the whole carpet. I wouldn't just take the sample because, you don't know what's behind it in the foam or how much is there. Yeah, you can see that's a marker number 2 with the scale, and it looks like a reddish brown stain, possibly diluted by the controls to the window.
Right. Yeah. More on the interior of the door panels. What could we be looking at there, Ed, what we just saw?
I mean, it could be some kind of bloodstain enhancer. It could be an LCV, but it doesn't. I would expect to see more because it's liquid. I would expect to see more, running due to gravity down the sides there. Yeah, here's this blood on tissue.
Yeah, I'm going to link this. And
I'm sorry, reddish brown stain until it's tested. Okay.
There you go.
But if it walks like a duck and it quacks like a duck and it looks like a duck, it's a duck.
Exactly. And
Okay.
so here's the carpeting. This is
So now we have some drops there. We have some blood drops. And, it looks like that's only being acted on by gravity. Not by any force greater than gravity. Okay. And it gets absorbed into the fibers of this material. So you take the whole floor mat. You don't cut those samples out. You just take the whole thing.
So the whole thing goes out. And I'd imagine they probably took a great deal of this car apart, looking for.
Oh, I would hope so. Yeah. You set up some clean work areas right outside the doors of the front and back on left side, right side. And then you remove the items in there after you document it with photographs, one item at a time, like that bag. It looks like there might be a biohazard bag with some blood on it.
Yeah.
Now, why would you have a biohazard bag with blood on it?
Yeah, look at this back here.
Yeah.
I mean, it's close up.
Yeah. Wow. Whose blood is that? If it is blood,
So this may mean potentially that he did more than strangle.
Now, this is not spatter. These are drops. Okay.
Yeah.
This is not spatter. This is not associated with blunt force trauma or stabbing or a beating of any kind. This are blood dropping onto the surface.
Right.
So something was bleeding or something had blood on it that was above it, and due to gravity, it fell on it.
That was dripping potentially.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, we got to save this for another show because we're getting at it. We're going offline here. We're going, which we rarely do. We're veering off course. Let's roll it. Let's roll this back in, and we'll get focused back in what the show topic is. So, Tim, you were able to observe Jennifer Soto early on. This was a day after, or 2 days after. I think it was Wednesday or Tuesday night that she gave these interviews with the news. And I didn't ask you to. I knew that you hadn't seen them, so I sent them to you, and I asked you to look at them and just give us your thoughts, your opinion on Jennifer Soto. And I'm gonna just, before I ask you about it, I want to just play just a little bit of it because I think it's fair to do this. The one that she was shaking, and her leg was shaking, that WTTV interview, and I have it labeled as Jennifer Soto shaking. That's the one that got a lot of people caught up. And this one right here, she seemed nervous as hell. Let's play a little.
So the first question.
Just want to play it from the beginning. She says, "I can't breathe."
Okay. So the first question is if I can have your first and your last name and spell them both out for me.
Okay. Jennifer Soto, Jennifer Soto.
Mother. Jennifer, tell me how you feel right now.
I feel like I can't breathe.
So he said, tell me what happened. And she said, "I feel like I can't breathe." This bouncing, as Little Ment says here in the chat, the bouncing of her leg. Any indicators? You do, hundreds, thousands of polygraphs. This be an indicator that either someone's nervous or someone's being deceptive?
She just seems nervous. I think it's starting to sink in that, her daughter's not coming home. And she's reacting that way. We also don't know, if it's time for her medication, if she's got a regimen, a specific timeline that she's got to take her medication, because she seems to mention medication a lot.
Yeah, I mean, look, I don't know anything about, this body language, and, we have done many interviews, but this is her in her own home and her daughter is now missing over 24 hours. It just didn't seem like she was pleading to the audience to like, hey, you got to find my daughter. She was just, it seemed like she was more concentrated on giving that story. And you could correct me if I'm wrong, Tim, because you're the expert on this stuff, but it seemed like there was no urgency. And I think you and I, Ed, pointed this out. She wasn't like saying, hey, how come the police aren't searching for my daughter? Where, can you help me? Can we show a picture of her? Can you please, if you have my daughter, bring her home? There was no plea and there was no urgency. And let me know in the chat if you're on board with what I'm saying here, if you guys are feeling the same way. Tim, anything as it pertains to that?
Everyone is going to react differently, right? So some people are going to take things harder than others. If my daughter was missing, I wouldn't be able to speak. Okay. And I could tell you that my wife would be the same way. I don't think she had a great relationship with her daughter. I think they were, not getting along. I think that may be a reason why she's not expressing more. But again, we don't know, what kind of medication she's on. These are things that are going to alter how people act, what they do. The shaking of her leg, I would say that's pretty normal. It's not something that's really alarming or going to cause me to suspect anything. Her just, being lost in space, or, not helping out, that might be a little bit alarming, but, listening to her talk, listening to the way she's looking at the interviewer, she's fully there and she's listening to them and she's trying to answer. I think that's the way she's expressing emotion, is by shaking her leg.
Right.
Like if where you stop the video right now, she's clearly, in my opinion, looking at her, she's feeling this at this point, and she's realizing that her daughter's not coming home. This looks normal to me. I got to be honest with you. It looks normal to me.
And when the police interviewed her a short time after this, or maybe even a short time before this, she says to the police, I need to get in my house. They told her, we got to seal up your house. So it was either a short time after this or before it. So correct me if I'm wrong in the chat, or if anybody knows exactly when this was. But essentially, they sealed her house up, and she didn't say anything in regards to her daughter. She said to the cops and the detectives, I need to get my medication. I can't survive without my medication. And she was more concerned about her medication than anything else.
She was very dependent on it. Very dependent on it.
Yeah. I'll just play a little bit more of this, and then we'll go to you for your take on, you watched both of these things. 15 minutes on this one, and the other one was 9 minutes. The other one, she was much more calm. She wasn't shaking. Yeah. She was just, right, Ed? She seemed just more in tune, maybe more medicated. I don't know. I mean, here she just seemed very nervous to me.
All I keep thinking about is, where is she? Is she safe? Is she okay? But we're all a wreck. My entire family is a mess. We're just so worried.
When did you first realize, or when did you file a missing report?
We filed a missing report. We called the police at like 4:45 yesterday, 4:45 p.m. But she actually went missing early that morning, around between 8:45 and 9 o'clock in the morning. She went missing.
I mean, and a lot of the stuff we now know is not true, because
right.
at 7 something in the morning, he's seen on the video dumping and discarding items at 7:19 in the morning. So it happened a lot earlier than this, and a lot of this information that she's putting out, I believe, is part of their story. And I don't know, maybe I'm overstepping here, but I feel like her and Stephan Stearns were on board with each other's story, because it's kind of the same story, but just a little bit different. Like she says, we brought her, and then she says he brought her to school. And remember this stuff, Ed, with all these inconsistencies?
And I saw her at this time, and she was wearing this, and None of that jived.
Right. Yeah, you know, she uses we a lot, almost where it's normal to her. So it's not something where I even think she's slipping up. She's just using we as normal conversation. A lot of the information that she's providing, I think she was fed from Stephan. Okay, he gave her this information. She's repeating the information. He actually a couple of times reinforced this information with providing it to her, and she as well, from taking that information, was reinforcing it and saying, well, this and that. And when you get more into the interview, we could talk a little bit more about like when she was dropped off by the church, and she's reinforcing stuff that is secondhand to her. So she's not getting that information from herself, knowing it. She's getting it from what Stephan fed her. In my opinion, everything she's saying is based off what Stephan told her. She's taking that information and she's relaying that information. Times, dropping off at the church, that they looked at video. And again, these are all things that are part of this interview that Stephan told her. And, you know, she's just repeating what he said.
A lot of people in the audience are saying, and Schmoopy just put her thing up, and now here's Janet. DutyRon, it's part of her story. It's a rehearsed narrative. Lies, lies, lies. And Schmoopy says, what's your guys' take on the rehearsed aspect? You know, I think that they had time to prepare what they were going to say. And Stephan Stearns, I think, was behind. Listen, we have now the knowledge of what his father told the police. His father, dad, Chris, Stephan Stearns' dad, was 2 years in the Orange County Sheriff's Office. So he served as a cop, and he told investigators when they came to his house in Northport, Florida, on the West Coast. He's like, me and my wife, we don't even know who he is. We don't even know what he's about. He's never told us the truth. He's always, you know, I got to shake him to get him out of bed to work. The guy was a bum. He never held a full-time job. He wasn't able to do the normal things that normal grown men do. And his father tried to give him work within his company and real estate and all this kind of stuff. But Stephan Stearns was never a responsible human being. You know, he was always just this mope that moped around and you know, tried to get money here and there by selling things and these figurines and all this crazy shit that he did. He was a bum. Yeah, Sleuthy says it good. He's a freaking bum. And his own parents admit to that. But Jennifer Soto, I think, was definitely controlled somewhat by this guy because he was a force that she, like you said, Tim, keeps saying we. It's like a team. But we come to find out that he was not living there from December up until this incident, and he only was visiting on and off. And it was part to do with that he was unemployed and he was a bum. Basically, the father was telling him, come on, you got to work. You got to come and do something. You got to make money. So he was traveling back and forth. Let's listen a little bit more.
Dropped her off close to the school. We had dropped her off close to the school. She wanted to walk the rest of the way. Sorry. That should be it. Sorry about that. We dropped her off at school, close to school. She wanted to walk the rest of the way. I'm not sure what I'm allowed to share.
You share whatever you feel comfortable sharing. I know you had conversations with detectives. Not sure what that conversation is, but whichever you feel comfortable sharing, that we'll put the awareness out there.
Yeah, she was spotted walking by the church, by the middle school on the cameras. They saw her hang out in the parking lot for a little bit and then get up and leave. They didn't see a vehicle or anything else. They just saw her walk away around 9 a.m. heading towards the school, but she never made it.
What has the school said? Have you been in contact with the school?
Yes, that they're doing everything they can. They've given me all their resources. The principals called me. They've looked at their cameras. I don't think they've caught anything on the camera.
And a lot of this stuff we're now finding out doesn't line up. You know, like the school wasn't giving all their resources. She was made contact with them and then didn't go running into the school and be like, hey, where's my daughter? She just was accepting emails and then eventually a phone call. So a lot of this stuff that she's saying here, we have now the advantage of knowing through interviews and through stuff that the police are releasing in these FOIA requests, that this whole story is like a sham, you know, like the dropping off, and that was all part of Stephan Stearns. But people want to know, and this is the pressing question, you know, why can't the police lock her up for failing to safeguard her daughter from this monster? And I'm just cutting to the chase here, because that's the looming question on everyone across the globe, not just the local people who are watching it, United States. We have an international audience that's following this case. Stephan Stearns is frying. We know that they have a mountain of evidence against him, but this woman is just running scot-free. And she admits, we played these videos, Timmy and Ed, where she says, I wanted to get a good night's sleep on Sunday night. And I told Stephan to take my daughter to the bedroom number 4, and go and sleep with her.
Yeah.
Unbelievable. Just unbelievable. I want to just go to the audience. Hashtag Ed, hashtag Tim, hashtag DutyRon for the questions. And I'm going to pull up some of the potential charges that Jennifer Soto could be looking at, and what we think the police should be looking at, and the district attorney's office. And I put this up a few different times. And here's the child abuse, 3rd-degree felony, child neglect without aggravating factors that wouldn't even come into play, child neglect with great bodily harm, and this falls into it, 15 years, a 2nd-degree felony. Child abuse, again, with great bodily harm, 1st-degree felony. That's a 30-year penalty and a $10,000 fine. Those are some serious charges. And I'll go to you, Ed. I mean, do you feel that any of these charges that we have up on the screen come into play?
Absolutely, 100%. No reasonable parent lets their, child sleep with their boyfriend. By themselves. Apparently, it was okay. She said it was okay, that her boyfriend can sleep alone with her child, a minor. Oh, no. That don't fly with me.
Does that get an oh, hell no?
Oh, hell no.
Hell no.
It gets a double oh, hell no. Tim, you brought this to our attention, the definition of child neglect under Florida Section 827.03. I'm trying to make this bigger, but it's not doing it. All right, so you guys just let me know if you can see this. So it's under Florida Section 827.03. Florida statutes, child neglect is defined as a caregiver's failure or omission to provide a child with care, supervision, and services necessary to maintain a child's physical and mental health. Statutory examples include a failure to provide food and nutrition, clothing, shelter, supervision, medical services. And it goes on to say child neglect may also occur as a result of a caregiver's failure to make a reasonable effort to protect the child. This is here where it comes into play with Jennifer Soto. As it pertains to her daughter, Madeline, neglect also can occur as a result of a caregiver's failure to make reasonable effort to protect the child from abuse, neglect, exploitation of another person.
By another person.
Yeah, by another person. So that screams Jennifer Soto and Stephan Stearns. There's the definition, and we're reading Florida statute. Tim, your thoughts on this?
So a couple of things. What's great about this is we are able to Monday morning quarterback and look at everything that's gone on so far after the fact, what police have done, look at interviews, multiple interviews. It's great that we're able to do this and diagnose and do a deep dive into all of this information. One of the things we don't know is we don't know how the police eliminated her as a suspect, right? They may have conducted a polygraph. We're not going to find that out. They're not going to tell anybody. Florida, a lot of police departments, Orange County Sheriff's Office, they do use polygraph as part of investigations. So we don't know if they conducted a polygraph on her to eliminate her as a suspect in the homicide portion of this. When it comes to the neglect, clearly she was negligent in taking care of this child and protecting this child. She brought this man into this home, allowed all of these bad things to happen to this child, and she didn't know. I find it hard to believe that this child that Madeline did not go to Jennifer and say, hey, Mom, this guy did this to me. I find that very, very hard to believe. I just can't see it happening. She was clearly negligent.
Yeah, we agree wholeheartedly, and we've covered this many, many a time. There is no way in hell. And listen, this is a big family, admitted to by Jennifer Soto herself. We saw inside her mother's place of business, the income tax or the tax firm or insurance firm, whatever they do there, I don't give a shit. It doesn't matter. But the bottom line is we saw a large amount of younger children, adults, and Stephan Stern's parents. You can't tell me that a child was being sexually assaulted for 7 years and not one person she went to and said a bleep to. I don't buy that. I don't buy that one bit. She had to have reached out for a cry out for help to one or more people, and they chose to turn their back on them. Shame on them if they did that.
I agree. And, I got to tell you, I'm sorry, Ed, kudos to the Orange County Sheriff's Office. I watched that video with those first two sheriff deputies who showed up at the scene, who quickly recognized the abnormalities of the case, the red flags of the case, and that they started the ball rolling. Kudos to them, and they did a great job. I
agree. And we also see Orange County Sheriff's Office did a tremendous amount of forensic work as well. And they said when this case was transferred to, when they realized Chief Betty Holland and the Kissimmee Police Department, it was their jurisdiction. But the police chief said in the press conference, we are going to continue to provide support. Ed, and I remember you was like saying to me, I'm so happy that Orange County is going to provide the support because they're going to need it as it pertains to evidence collection and testimony as well in court. So it's a good thing. Let's listen to this. This is an older one, but this is to get everybody riled up even further. Let's take a listen to this. Madeline Soto's mom admits to letting Stephan Stern sleep with her.
And Greg Stearns appears fairly calm throughout this recording.
And there may be two explanations for that. Number one, at the moment, he may be thinking detectives have no real evidence against him. Number two, he says several times in the interview that he's taking a lot of medication to control anxiety. What he didn't know then is that detectives had already been focusing on him as the prime suspect.
And she wanted to be dropped off a little down the ways from the school.
You're listening to Stephan Stern's voice as he was being interviewed by detectives on February 27th, one day after 13-year-old Madeline Soto disappeared. Stearns, the boyfriend of Maddie's mother, was supposed to drop her off at Hunters Creek Middle School, but said she wanted to be dropped off a couple of blocks away.
She's got this phase that she's been into lately where she's very particular about what car she's seen getting out of in front of the school.
But Maddie never arrived at school. Video evidence would later, allegedly, show Stearns discarding items that included Maddie's backpack and laptop computer in a dumpster at the family's Kissimmee apartment complex. During the recorded interview, Stearns expressed sadness at Maddie's disappearance.
At that point, my brain was mush, and I was on so many tranquilizers to keep me stable. It's just...
And he gave this explanation about why most of the information on his phone was deleted.
I don't know what the heck I did, but somehow during the massive OS update, I managed to factory reset my phone and lose all of my contacts, all my information.
Investigators would later retrieve images from the phone that prompted the initial charges against Stearns of sexual battery on a child under 12. Documents obtained from the state attorney's office reveal that Stephan Stearns had an on-again, off-again 7-year relationship with Madeline Soto's mother. Those documents also indicate the pornographic images allegedly found on Stearns' cell phone date back at least 2 years and depict vile acts of sexual abuse. In March, detectives provided sworn statements of their discussions with Jennifer Soto and Stephan Stearns. Jennifer Soto stated while they were together, they, Jennifer, Stephen, and Madeline, would either all sleep in the same bed or Madeline would sleep with her when Stephan was not there. When asked if it was normal that Stephan and Madeline would sleep together without her being there, and she said yes. In another statement, Stephan stated Madeline always needed human contact when going to sleep.
Ugh.
Stephan referred to it as snuggling. But the conversations with
just gross on so many levels, guys. And you're hearing the mom giving these statements. We heard her say it verbally. We heard her say it, we looked at it in writing, in all the statements, and it's just despicable. Somebody, I highlighted a question for you, Tim. If Jennifer Soto was to fail a polygraph administered by whatever county, Orange or Kissimmee, would that lead to an arrest? That's a good question, actually. Tim,
Yeah.
Can you take that, because you're an expert on this?
Sure. So I get asked that a lot. Okay. Polygraph is a tool, okay, that's used to verify somebody's truthfulness. Okay. You're not going to be arrested if you fail a polygraph. You can be arrested if you fail a polygraph, and now the person conducting the polygraph conducts an interview/interrogation, and you make admissions. Okay. A lot of times people will ask me, well, is polygraph admissible in court? The standard answer is no, it's not admissible in court. Has it been allowed in court? Yes, it has. But the standard answer is that it's not allowed in court, but it's really up to the judge. So it's a little bit confusing and contradicting what I just said.
Right.
But it could be allowed in court, but the standard answer is it's not allowed in court. So it kind of doesn't make sense, but it does. Certain judges will allow it, most will not. What is allowed in court is if I conduct a polygraph on somebody and they fail, and now I go into an interrogation phase and they make admissions to me. That is allowed in court. So I can testify in court to the admissions that I obtained without ever mentioning the polygraph at any point in my testimony.
Right. Interesting and good information. And, as you said, it's used as a tool. It's used as a tool to find out where there is possible deceptions or possible, mistruths being said in stories that are given by these defendants or by potential perpetrators. And then it's up to a detective to take it from there. So I think you answered the question. Jem says, and she's a new member to the channel. Thank you for being here. Thank you for being a channel member. She says, #Tim. Thank you. So she asked that question. Ed, I know that you've been away for a while, a month. Internet was spotty. This thing is going on for a long time. And, the next court date is October 14th for potentially this trial to kick off. I don't see how it's going to happen, but that's the last thing I wrote down in my notes. Trial, October 14th, which is just a little bit over a month away. Could they be waiting to do something with Jennifer Soto till the trial is over? Or could they be wanting to do this before the trial commences? And I'll go to you first, Ed, and then I'll ask Tim this, because people want to know what would be the best way to go about this, because her charges, I don't believe, will be what Stephan Stearns' charges are.
Well, I mean, the law enforcement in this case have already made a statement saying she's not going to be charged in her death. That doesn't mean she can't be charged for the other things that we've uncovered in terms of child abuse and endangering the welfare of a minor and so forth. There could be a secret grand jury that we don't know about behind the scenes, and maybe there's a sealed indictment for her, and maybe they're looking to get her testimony and so forth for this trial. I find it funny how, this case is capital punishment, right?
Yeah, it is.
Okay. I find it funny how Florida does, how Florida works versus, say, Idaho with Brian Kohlberger. Okay. that case is just, you know, hearing after hearing and all kinds of nonsense, and it's not going to be until next summer on trial. And I mean, in this case, okay, they're potentially going to trial in October.
Right. And October could be just another court date, but I wrote, it's my handwriting, and it may have changed since I wrote this on this paper, but it said trial 10/14/2024. I'll look it up. I'll check it out. Maybe it's changed, but we've been jumping around to a lot of different cases. But nonetheless, he has not made an appearance once in court. But let me go to you, Timmy, on your thoughts of if they're going to charge Jennifer for, you know, child neglect or any of these different charges. Would they do it before, during, or after a trial, in your opinion?
Well, a couple of things. Well, first, I got to tell you that either you, Ed, or I, if we spent an hour in the box with Jennifer Soto, if she had any involvement with that homicide, okay, she would have confessed to it, in my opinion. She does not appear to be a strong person. I think if she had any involvement with the homicide, and that's probably why they're clearing her, I think she would have spilled the beans and given it right up and begged for forgiveness and begged for help and, you know, mercy.
Right.
Should she be charged versus is she going to be charged? I don't know if she's going to be charged. If they've eliminated her as a suspect in the murder, technically, you know, her daughter was killed, right? She's a victim. Do we want to prosecute somebody who's lost a daughter versus do we want to prosecute somebody who is probably responsible, okay, in my opinion, for the daughter being killed because she brought this man into the house? I know it's upsetting a lot of people because a lot of people apparently want her charged.
There's a petition out there.
Yeah, I don't know if they're going to charge her.
Yeah.
Should they? I mean, she was clearly negligent. It's a felony. Whether or not she's convicted, the jury may have, you know, pity on her for losing a child. I think they should roll the dice, in my opinion, and they should charge her.
Yeah.
The jury doesn't convict. The jury doesn't convict, and they can say
they can say get a pass.
He charged her.
Yeah.
For me, she doesn't get a pass. She needs to go for the child charges.
Yeah, I agree wholeheartedly. This is a clear case where Florida can set a precedent and send a message. Hey, parents, if
you're responsible,
if you're allowing your daughter to sleep with your significant other or your casual boyfriend, or any adult for that matter, in her single digit years, arguably 7, 8 years old up until her 13th birthday, if you're doing this bullshit, you're getting locked up. And I feel that Florida is a state that's tough on crime, and they try to get the wheels of justice moves quicker than any other state that I've seen. Florida tries to do these things as quick as possible, and it's still slow. There's no reason why Wade Wilson had to wait 5 years to get a trial, but it did, 5 to 6, right in that range. But they tried him, he got convicted, and now he's on death row. I see Stephan Stearns getting that same type of situation, being put on death row, but Jennifer Soto needs to be she needs to pay for what she allowed to happen to her daughter. And I say that loud and clear. My opinion may vary from Tim's and it may vary from Ed's, but we all can come to an agreement here that she's negligent, and there's no reason why they should not go after her. And there's got to be a method to the madness of why or how they're doing this. So let us know what you think in the comments section. Hashtag Ed, hashtag Tim, and hashtag DutyRon. Let's go to the comments before we wrap it up. Ed, you got anything to say?
No, I'm good.
You're wearing an EchoSearch Midwest T-shirt. I noticed.
That's right. I'm representing.
Full screen. We're gonna do a fundraiser for them. They've been doing some unbelievable work lately. Twyla and Dave are gonna come on and join us. But yeah, what do you guys think in the chat? Put a 1 in the chat if you feel Jennifer Soto should be charged in some way, shape, or form. Put a 2 if you feel that maybe she's a victim and she didn't know anything was going on. I want to see if the ones outweigh the twos. I have a feeling I already know the answer to this, but let's do it. Let's see what it's looking like. What do you guys see? I see a bunch of ones. I've yet to see a number two. I thought someone would be just funny and put a two in the chat, but this isn't a funny matter. But there it is. Boom. And I respect everyone's opinion. You know, L Vander Heidi, she probably feels that, you know, maybe, you know, just leave her alone. But look, I saw one number two and a bunch of number ones.
So, Ron, you know, one of the other things too is we don't know what else went on in this house, right? You know, with the partitions and the weird sleeping arrangements and multiple people sleeping over, rooms with numbers on it. We don't know what else went on in this place. You know?
Yeah. You know, she may
on.
Yeah, it
and
could be a lot more than we know.
And how many years was this going on? Like, it appears that her father was renting or subleasing this location for a period of time to make money, to make ends meet. So in that time period, how many men or how many young adults, males, came through there, and what transpired?
Yeah, how many transient druggies, you know, stay there? If she turned it into an SRO, a single room occupancy, make rent to pay for her bills and things, you know.
Right.
You know, who knows what was going on in there? I mean, because, like I said, the only other place I've ever seen rooms numbered like that was in the sex industry.
Yeah,
okay?
Massage parlors that do the happy endings at the end, rub and tug places, and you know, like you said, this is a common what we would see inside a house of prostitution. Olga P. King says, "What about even before Stephan Stern came onto the scene? Who knows? We don't know. We don't know what, you know, was going on." I'd really be interested in hearing if any of the teachers or social workers or guidance counselors or anybody within the school system, if she felt comfortable to reach out to them. I know at trial we'll hear about this, but I find it hard to believe that there were no red flags given by Madeline Soto. And I've actually seen some conversations where people talk. I was on Reddit looking at a Reddit group, a subreddit group about this, and people were discussing the possibility that this became normal for her and that she just gave into it. Timmy, you work with lots of sex offenders. You're shaking your head. Thoughts on that?
Yeah. So a couple of things, right? So number one, if she did go to anybody in school, guidance counselor, teacher, therapist, anyone, those are all mandated reporters. They are obligated by law to report this, you know, this information. So, you know, they would have reported it, or they would have been in effect committing a crime by not reporting it. You know, it's terrible. I don't even know what to say anymore, to the point of, you know, she should be charged for this negligent. You know, other than that, I mean, it should be an open and shut case. Charge her, let her roll the dice, let a jury decide, you know, whether or not she's guilty or not.
Yeah, and go forward. You know, I'm seeing even people saying in the chat that there would be community unrest in that area if Jennifer Soto was not arrested for something. I saw it early on in the live stream. Julie V, a channel member, says #DutyRon. As a teacher, I find it very strange. We're trained to look for many red flags.
Right.
You know, again, we've seen so many instances, and I'll cite little Thomas Valva from Long Island. Father was an NYPD transit cop. Michael Valva froze to death. He froze his son in his garage, and the son went to school, and there was clear signs of neglect, urine-soaked shoes, feces in the clothing, malnutrition. The teachers were sneaking food to this kid, and they wrote letters. They did their mandate reporting, and nobody did anything about it. So if this was a case here with Madeline Soto, it wouldn't shock me, because I've seen this before, where people do what they have to do, and then they just stick with that bare minimum. Like, neighbors actually heard the kid crying in the garage, saw him defecating in the backyard naked with their own eyes and never called 911? I don't know. Just it blows my mind that this could have gone on for so many years without her reaching out to somebody. It's just mind-boggling. So people are asking, I like this. She said, I want to hear the jail calls with Jen, meaning she wants to see Jen in jail and have her do the calls like they're doing with Wade Wilson. We'll see what happens. This remains to be seen. There's just so much that we don't know, right? But yeah, I mean, this discussion can go on and on and on, but at the end of the day, I definitely want to see this trial commence. I want to see Stephan Stearns, and I want to hear about the evidence that they have. We just looked at some of the stuff in the car. Looks like we saw blood there. You guys were also saying that it looked like there may be other fluids that were on the blankets and clothing and things of that nature, of a sexual nature. You guys picked that out right away as I was showing it to you. It's just disturbing. Just disturbing. What was inside.
And also, there's in the chat, everybody was talking about how they use the vehicle to transport animals to the vet and so forth. And there could be, this could be animal blood, as you said earlier. It wasn't tested. We don't know the results of the test, rather. So it could be, but that's simple and easy. I could have been able to tell that in the field with one simple test, an OBTI test, and but. It'll all shake out when it goes to trial, what the blood was, and if it was animal or human, and if it was human, whose blood it was, and so forth.
Absolutely. Absolutely. All right. Well, I want to just go over to the super chats really quick because, again, I always forget sometimes to look at the super chats. I mean, I don't always forget, but sometimes I do. But I want to just get to them. Tara, thank you for gifting out a membership. Kelsey, thank you for being a member for over a year. Thank you, you guys. Thank you for all you do, guys. Well, we thank you for watching. Christina A, a member for 8 months. I love this channel. I'm always learning something new. Yeah, that's one of the benefits of having guys like Tim and Ed on, is that you're always learning. We're always, finding out new information as it pertains to, crime scene evidence collection, interview and interrogation. And look, Tim's our polygraph expert, and he's on here, laying it out for us. Roberts May Queen, thank you for being a member, 16 months. Hi, DutyRon and Ed. Hi.
I like the tartan.
There you go. Let me get this back up on the screen. Wishful State sends in a super chat. I hope she won't skate by like Wendy Adelson. Yeah, Adelson. Yeah, I mean, no two cases are the same. So I'm hoping that if there is a chance, if there is evidence that they come forward. Sarah Gates, thank you for being a member for 20 months. It's long past the rest o'clock for Miss Jennifer Soto. I agree wholeheartedly with you.
I like that, Sarah. I like that.
Janet Fairclough, she sends in a $10 super sticker. Thank you, Janet. Barbara, thank you for being a member for 5 months. Kitty, thank you for rejoining the memberships. Kitty KU, new member. Just plain fed up. $2. She says she without a doubt knew something. And that's another thing too, is like, how could you be that naive that you don't know something's going on with your own flesh and blood? You don't know something is not right with your daughter. Or did she just not care? She didn't seem to love Madeline in my eyes. And that's kind of maybe unfair for me to say this, but the take that I got from the way she's referring to her daughter, the way she's talking about her, she didn't show me that she was a loving parent just based on her actions of not showing up to her 13th birthday party. Who doesn't come when your daughter turns into a teenager and you have an official party? I don't care if it's not the date. Maybe she was with her on her birthday, but that night on Sunday, you just come home and go to sleep. And there's, no, it's just something's just not right about it. Sharon, thank you for becoming a member. Emily, thank you for the $2 super chat. She says, so glad you're home, Ed. And
thank you, Emily.
Everybody loves you, Ed. So that's it for the super chats and the channel memberships. If you guys can, give this video a thumbs up, share it onto your social media platform, subscribe. We're up to 346,000 subscribers, Ed. It keeps growing on a daily basis. People are finding out about us. Share us with your friends, your families, your loved ones. I just want to say, I wanted to say this. I was in a restaurant the other day with my wife, and the girl that was serving us, the waitress, she was like, "Are you DutyRon?" I shit you not. And Janine sitting there with me, and she was just like, "Oh my God." the waitress was like, "I watch you and Ed all the time. Your shows are so great." And then she was going on about Karen Reed. She was watching our Karen Reed coverage. So it brings me to what we're going to be doing soon, Ed, is this corruption and this craziness with what's going on in Massachusetts. So we got a lot to talk about. We got a lot to cover. But yeah, thank you all for being here. Thank you, Tim, for taking an hour out of your night to hang out with us. Ed's exhausted. He's just now trying to catch up, with his honeydew checklist and all the things that he has to do. But Ed and I are going to get together over the weekend. I think I'm going to take a ride down to the Jersey Shore, to the Ed's Jersey Shore house. And we're going to hang out down there with him and Margaret. So I think it's going to be a decent weekend, hopefully, out there hanging out with Ed. Ed, I go to you for final thoughts.
Well, I don't give her a pass. I think she needs to pay for those crimes that were committed against her daughter with her blessings. She was neglectful. You can name anything. She was irresponsible or negligent or whatever. She needs to be held to account for that. With that said, I just want to thank everybody for being here and joining us on our channel. And we have a lot of places you can go to get your true crime fix. And we're glad and appreciate you all for sharing an hour with us. Spread the word about Ron and I and Tim. And thanks for being here. And remember, always stay safe, stay prepared, and watch your six.
Amen to that, brother. And Tim, I wanted to go for final words with you as it pertains to what our discussion was here tonight, because this was really catered around the polygraph and your vision of how Jennifer Soto presented herself in those interviews.
So clearly, every parent is responsible for safeguarding their children. They're all responsible. She has to be held accountable for what has taken place. She allowed it to take place. She brought the individual into the house. I'm hoping that she's arrested and charged with, what she's done. It should send a message out there that parents are, responsible for protecting their children. And that's what needs to happen.
Amen to that, brother. And I wanted to just quickly say, I'm sending prayers and strength and positive vibes to the victims of the school shooting in Georgia today. Appalachia High School fell victim to a 14-year-old shooter that shot 4 people and killed 4 students. So we are sending prayers out to the families and everybody who's affected by that. In that community is just a travesty of justice, as these things just keep happening here in America. So prayers go out. I've been watching it all day on my TV in my office at work. Just a horrible, horrible situation. All right, guys, good night on behalf of Crime Time with DutyRon and Ed Wallace. And Tim, thank you for hanging out here with us. Stand by just for a message from the cop team. But I'm going to leave on the screen our victim here, Madeline Soto. That's what this is all about. Sending out, again, to the law enforcement, the district attorney's office, and everyone's that's taxed with the prosecution, successful prosecution against Stephan Stearns and possibly Jennifer Soto, if that happens. So here we go, guys. Good night from New York City.